Chapter 13, Day 8, Sphere 7, Het HERU. The faculties corresponding to Sphere 7, 8, and 9 are the tools through which the subconscious, which is in charge of all our physiological and mental functions, is programmed. The function of the sixth sphere is to control what spheres 7 and 8 will program into the subconscious, according to the laws framed in the fourth and fifth spheres. As this programming occurs when we go into trance, ninth sphere, an event that occurs several times a day, for example, when we daydream, experience an emotion, become absorbed in deep thought, it is also the function of the will, Heru, to be vigilant of their manifestations, which occur cyclically and involuntarily. One of the major problems in life stems from the fact that the emotions and thoughts that provide the immediate impetus for our behavior have their origin in the subconscious regions of the mind. In other words, the immediate instigators of our behavior are processed by a mechanism that functions outside of our consciousness and seemingly without our consent and beyond our control. This is why most people find it so difficult to control their behavior and fail to understand themselves. The solution to this problem was discovered by the ancient Egyptians thousands of years ago. They understood that the subconscious is programmed by acts that we carry out in plain consciousness. Unlike today's psychoanalysts who strive to make the contents of the subconscious conscious in order to learn what is going on in a person's psyche, the Egyptians understood that you could gain this insight by examining the beliefs and images that you repeatedly dwell upon in waking states, especially if these are emotionally charged. This fact is embodied in the Kamitic word tut, which means image and to beget. The association is born of the knowledge that effects begetting in our behavior, physiology, and even in the environment can be manipulated through images taken into the state of trance. We find a similar indication in the Kamitic word chet, which means word and deed. Het HERU, our imagination, is the first of the three programming tools of the subconscious. Actions cannot be carried out without energy. The energies through which we are motivated, that provide the motor power, emotions, passions, to act in the world, are invoked and organized by the images manipulated through the faculty of imagination. We must know that any image that can elicit from us an emotional reaction or the strong expectation or anticipation that the eventuality it represents may or will come to pass, gives evidence of a behavior pattern that has been programmed into the subconscious. Therefore, not all acts of the imagination have the power to beget responses. If, for example, a result of getting wet, I was visited by a scenario in which I saw and felt my person becoming ill, and this was followed by the expectation that it would happen, then chances are great that it would come to pass, not because it was a logical effect or the working of a physiological law, but because the imagination invoked and organized forces that had a negative effect on the physiological processes. Similar images, feelings, and emotions will combine to beget thoughts and actions that will keep a person in poverty or wealth, that will make the person trusting or doubting, a liar or honest, a slave or a free person, and so on. Earlier it was said that the image must be dwelt on in a state of trance, and the preceding examples seem not to involve trance. The confusion comes from the general ignorance, even among psychologists, concerning trance, which is usually described according to its narrow manifestation in classical hypnotic induction, through the use of suggestion, fatigue induction, and so on. The majority of clinical psychologists have ignored the work of the eminent hypnotherapist Milton Erickson, who has shown that trance and hypnotherapy is easily attained without the manifestation of the classical hypnotic trance. His technique is based on the common everyday trance that naturally occurs when a person concentrates on an imagined scene or thinks deeply. The trance state, with its effective functions of healing, transcending or reinforcing conditionings, etc., occur at those moments in which the person is so engrossed that contact is lost with external events. The person fails to hear, see, feel what is going on around. This is a state in which we commonly slip into many times every day. Het HERU, Goddess of Joy. We know from common experience that imagery invokes emotions, and while all types of emotions are thus invoked, joy is a characteristic emotion of the Het HERU faculty. The so-called worship of the goddess was in reality, at least with the initiated, the cultivation of the ability to maintain oneself in a state of joy by dwelling on appropriate images. In this manner, health and vigor was maintained, which was also conducive to success in most undertakings. The most important point to be realized is the insight here given that emotions are invoked not by the situations in which we find ourselves or the things we interact with, but by the images we associate with them. This is the technical way of saying that enjoyment is in the mind. By understanding this, we are able to enjoy ourselves in the world without enjoying the things with which we interact, thus avoiding placing ourselves in jeopardy with the laws governing the Amen part of our spirit, the essential state of our being, and the Seker part of our spirit, finding joy in the way of life that leads to the manifestation of spiritual power. We misuse the imagination by failing to use it systematically and methodologically to achieve our ends, and we fail to control its use, so that we often allow ourselves to program our subconscious with undesirable behavior. These errors are compounded by its ignorant use in its most elaborated form, art. Because most artists are ignorant of the divine law and the program intended by God for man's destiny, most artistic creations are incubators of undesirable programs in the spirit of people. Assignments. The night preceding day 8 of TOLM, Het HERU Contemplative Meditation. Number 1. Review the material given in this chapter, as well as the preceding sections wherein Het HERU was discussed. Additional data should be looked up through the index. 2. Go into trance using the instructions given in chapter 5. You may also have a TOLM partner assist you with trance induction through Ari Saung. 3. Once you are in a trance, see signs of trance in Chapter 5, recall to mind, contemplate situations in which you violate the laws of the Het Heru part of your spirit. Write down these situations as detailed scenarios. Take note of when, where, and with whom what is said and done in the situation. You will use this scenario in your work in the days ahead. If you are not able to maintain yourself in trance as you perform this introspection, continue with the deep breathing throughout the contemplation. 4. The following questions will also assist you in your introspection. Het Heru Questionnaire. It is of utmost importance to note that the answers to these questions are to be sought in what your behavior during the past 6 months have shown, and not what you say, know, or believe about the subject, i.e., the question concerns your ability to do, and not just your knowledge of the subject. Number 1. Do you methodically and systematically always use your imagination in a state of trance in your efforts to change your behavior and achieve your goals? If your answer is yes, you have 15 points. 2. Do you always refrain from indulging the imaging of situations and events that could cause problems if they were to become reality? For example, dwelling on the image of yourself eating things that you shouldn't, engaged in romantic or sexual scenarios that you shouldn't, etc. If your answer is yes, you have 15 points. 3. Are you always joyful and because you will to, as opposed to because something desirable has happened? If your answer is yes, you have 25 points. Day 8 of TOLM Het Heru assignment. From this day on, you must make the effort to observe the laws of Het Heru as revealed in your studies and introspection.